Yo,
I'm very nervous right now.
I am, man. This seems like a serious show. Like, this almost feels like I use Law and Order episodes a lot, don't I? This almost feels like one of the serious Law and Order episodes, like where
it's a very special episode.
Yeah, where they're not gonna tell any funny jokes and Ice, is it Ice T? I don't know. Ice T's not gonna do anything, funny. Yo, what up, Kev? How was your week, man?
Good, man. How was yours?
It was cool. It was cool. Yeah, the whole rat thing seems to be resolved pretty quickly, so I think we're good.
Which thing?
The whole like rats outside the building thing.
Oh, well, that's good. I was gonna say you didn't really have to ask this week because you knew I had a bad week and you had a good week because I had to live in infamy for the entire week.
Yes. Well, I wanted to be the one to bring that up. Your sound issues. Now, here's the thing, though. You didn't live in infamy because when I had sound issues, Fizz made sure to speak about it. Like it had to be a thing. You had sound issues and no one said anything. So, you know what I'm saying? I feel like there's a double standard here.
I get a pass.
Yeah, I don't know why. But
perhaps I'm the model minority.
Don't do this. I only have room for one of these, man. Like I don't have any space. I don't even have the space right now, yo.
So you don't want me to talk about why your sound was messed up the week before?
No, not at all. I don't see why that's necessary. See, this is unnecessary. This is absolutely unnecessary. Like we are so far into unnecessary territory right now. I don't even understand what's happening.
Oh man.
Yo, man.
Oh. So do you have the game on in the background?
I did. I refused to watch it, and that's what I was going to ask you, actually. So you stole my opening question. Are you watching the game, the Dodger game, during this episode?
I had it on, and the thing is that, yes, we're going to talk about a serious topic, but the reason I'm nervous is not because of anything other than how terribly my sound situation went last week, and also the fact that I literally turned the game off to conserve internet bandwidth for all the intricate stuff that's going on right here.
Man, listen, I am like, outside of any, internet issues or what have you, which I haven't had so far, knock on wood. Baseball is a bit much for me. I don't have the
why
I don't have it. Like I don't have the blood pressure balance or whatever to deal with it. I've said this before, and I was, what we don't have a drop yet, right? Sports, Rap Sucks Radio Sports. No, listen, the best seasons, I think, of the three big American sports, the best seasons would be football. This is a short season, everything counts, blah, 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 right? The best playoffs, I think, is baseball. The best finals, I think, is basketball. And the best final game, I think, is football. Because there's only one. You know what I'm saying? So I think the whole I'm sorry, I meant the best playoffs is basketball, but I think the World Series as a series is crazy. And like the lead up is crazy because everything matters. Every pitch matters. Like every single play on the field makes a difference. You know what I'm saying? It's hard to watch. I was going to say,
so you get stressed out because you have to sit there and wait for things to happen?
Yeah, that's true too. That is true too.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes, that's interesting.
That's an excellent point, man. It's so much waiting, like, due to be.
Well, that's the thing you learn also, right? Unless you're a kid who watches baseball all the time.
Yeah.
Who you make a choice when you're a kid, and if you watch baseball all the time, you either love it or you get super tired of it, right?
Right.
And I was somewhere in the middle, but as you get older and you start just, sort of part of being older and appreciating stuff more, you appreciate what's going on away from the ball just like most sports, and then also between plays.
Sure.
Right, the choices that the coaching choices and all that stuff. But yeah, man, it's so if you pay attention to that stuff, then yeah, I can definitely see it being more stressful.
It's stressful as hell. It's stressful.
Still doesn't make up for whatever. What are we in hour 24 of this game?
Man,
this game 7,
hour 190,
23 maybe.
It's like insane, dude. Yeah, and the games are super long. Like
three.
It's a whole different thing. But we'll see, man. At the point of this recording, the Dodgers were up 4-3 in the bottom of the 8th, or So
yep, we just blew it.
So I don't know.
I'm sure we just messed it all up.
I don't know what happens going forward, and I don't want to know. And I want to get on with this episode because we got a lot to get into concerning one topic at least.
They'll still be playing when we're done.
Right? It's like the 9th inning is going to be 20 minutes, 45 minutes. All right, y'all. So we're going to see y'all on the other side. Yo, Kev, man, are you ready, man?
I am.
All right, we'll see. Catch y'all on the other side. Let's go.
Rap Sucks Radio. Blah, 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 blah.
What up, y'all? You are live on Rap Sucks Radio with your homeboy Track Life and your fam, Kev Sakota.
Once again, it's on.
Thank y'all for tuning in, man. We appreciate each and every one of y'all. If you'd like to catch any past episodes, please check out rapsucksradio.com or any of your favorite podcasting platforms. If you'd like to see this one live on your TV, you can watch it on BTSN. That's Behind the Scenes Network. Here's what you do. You download the app or channel on your Roku, Fire Stick, or Fire TV. You go ahead and click on that, and we are right there. We have our own section and everything, Rap Sucks Radio. So you can catch us out. Catch us out. You can check us out on BTSN, Behind the Scenes Network, on your Roku, your Fire Stick, or your Fire TV. Let's go. Yo, Kev, big week. Mm-hmm. I think a big week for I don't know, for voting, community, a lot of things. You know, saying hip hop. Let's jump into it. Who is doing too much this week, Kev?
Katrina Pierson. Let's blame it on her.
Well, I am going to actually. The topic title that I decided to write for this is Ice Cube writes the plans that I say. I thought that was fresh.
That was fresh.
The reason, Katrina Pierson tweets a shout out to Cube, causing him to receive heavy criticism for working with the Trump campaign. The sources for this are Twitter. I took Rolling Stone, the internet in general. Players involved: Ice Cube, Trump, Biden, Katrina Pierson. So here's some quick notes. And the notes I really have here are two of the tweets from Katrina Pierson. Now, for those who do not know, Katrina Pierson is the senior. I completely forgot her title for the Trump campaign. She basically was part of running the 2016 Trump campaign and is now back on board. She is also a Tea Party activist, or former. I'm not sure if the Tea Party is a thing anymore, but she was part of the Tea Party. She is half white and half black. That is notable to me in this conversation. And she seems to be very, very big on, pointing out every instance in which the black vote has transferred over to Donald Trump. Not particularly transferred over to the GOP from when I read her tweets, but they are very specific to Donald Trump, which makes sense because she is part of running his campaign. Anyhow, this is the tweet that started the whole madness off, chain reaction.
Yep.
Katrina Pierson tweeted, "Shout out to Ice Cube for his willingness to step up and work with Donald Trump, the Donald Trump administration, to help develop the Platinum Plan. Leaders gonna lead, haters gonna hate. Thank you for reading," with a black fist emoji. And then she followed up after Ice Cube received criticism that we'll discuss shortly. "Black people criticizing Ice Cube for actually helping black people is why we haven't had nice things. But that changed under the leadership of Donald Trump, with a record of results in the community and continued success with," in all caps, "4 more years and the Platinum Plan." All right.
Platinum plan.
So I'm going to preface all of this. Ice Cube also had, Ice Cube tweeted that he sent his plan to both parties. He, can I clarify a few things, Kev, before we jump into this? Because I think
Please,
I don't want to
take it away.
Yeah, I don't want to deal with the kind of peanut gallery conversation. So what I think has happened here, and I know I'm being long-winded, but I want to make sure that we knock out the BS before we get to the actual meat of things. The Biden campaign dropped their plan in May, the Lift Every Voice plan. It included legislation. It included add-ons from folks that work for the NAACP, etc. Ice Cube drops his contract with Black America in July, and in October, Trump drops his platinum plan on the campaign trail for 2020. So what happened was Cube. Oh man. I got a text. Okay, I'm sorry, guys. I should have turned off my notifications. Damn it. Okay, anyway. What happened was the people took what Cube said and Katrina Pierson said, and everybody funneled it into their own particular, belief. You know what I'm saying? Whatever their narrative is. So the you shouldn't vote people were like, see, politics is all whack, and that's why, right? The you should vote for Trump people was like, see, Trump got black folks. We even working with Ice Cube. Yeah, it's going down, right? And the Biden people were like, yo, he's working with Trump now. We got to get rid of this. He's messing up. Everybody took a piece of their own narrative, and I don't think Cube, I just want to be really clear, where I don't particularly like Cube's his tweet, everything else I'm fine with. So he actually answered all the questions that people drew into their own narrative. People are saying Biden's team blew him off. They actually said and talked to him, but they have their own plan in which they talk to other black people. It's not as though, Ice Cube was the only person with ideas on how to fix the black community, right? There are other people with ideas that have been working on these ideas for years, putting things together for quite some time. So let's not sit here and pretend that Ice Cube is the only person that can be listened to concerning this subject. Although he's an excellent person to listen to concerning this subject, the Biden team did not blow him off. They actually met with him. And being that they are not in office, I feel like, at least I'm adding my point, they're not in office. It would have been disingenuous to make promises to him currently when they're not in office, right? The Trump administration did not meet with Ice Cube, and he said as much. He said he's never met Trump, he's never talked to Trump, and he also said he talked to their campaign managers. He said he spoke to both campaigns. So the Trump administration has not spoken to Ice Cube. That's just to clarify a few of the things that people have been saying. Now, Kev, I'm gonna pass it over to you because I still have more that we'll paint through, we'll paint over and involving all this. But I wanted to make sure we clarified a couple of things so that people with their narratives can get the F off of this conversation and we can have a real one. Let's go.
Yeah, that's a good point, that there is a valuable, important, supremely consequential conversation to have around everything that we're talking about here.
Yes.
Right? The topic of discussion is extremely important. So to let it get lost in everyone's opinions, which everyone has a right to, is counterproductive. So this is now a few days old. I can't remember exactly when Katrina Pierson tweeted what she tweeted, but I want to say it was like maybe Tuesday, Wednesday?
I think it's Tuesday, last Tuesday.
So we've had a few days, and the way things go in this world now, everybody gets upset for about 24, 36 hours and then completely forgets about it, and Dancing with the Stars comes on and, whatever, talking about something else. So we have been fortunate enough, just because of when we record, to have a few days to digest a lot more of the information than any of us was able to initially. And I'm of the opinion now that every single party involved did the right thing.
Sure.
That may sound a little controversial, and I'll explain why. But what I will say is, again, very important conversations. Ice Cube and his team, at the very least, sat down and put pen to paper and recorded at least his ideas, and specific ideas, more importantly, on how America and American government can help the black community specifically. That's really important.
Yes.
That's also more than most of us have done, right? Now, for my opinion, I think he got played a little bit.
I do.
I think he got fooled, but that is different, and it does not mean that I think he is a fool.
No.
I'm upset that he got it looks like he may have gotten taken advantage of. I'm very upset with that. I think he should be upset with that, and I'm not sensing that he necessarily feels that way. But that's pretty much the extent of it.
Sure.
Now, when I say I think everybody did something right, one, I already said Cube has an opinion, has had an opinion, has been able to crystallize that opinion in a way that it can be put in writing, and he has a voice that, and a level of influence that can get that plan to people in power. That really, from what I could tell, it was his whole goal, right? He has not, like he said, I don't endorse anybody, which unfortunately is not, him saying I don't endorse anybody is not a objective counter narrative to him talking to one campaign or another. And that's the thing I think he wouldn't agree with.
Right.
I may be wrong.
It's a good time to include this real quick, as you're saying, a good counter narrative, because his tweet was one of the infamous tweets, right? Facts, he states. I put out the contract with Black America. Both parties contacted me. Dems said we'll address the contract with Black America after the election. Trump campaign made some adjustments to their plan after talking to us about the CWBA. All right, continue.
Okay, so that's Cube. Trump, if Ice Cube is going to reach out in any kind of way, I am the most despicable politician that perhaps has ever held public office in any level of American government, whether local, state, or federal.
Right.
I've lied constantly to the American people. I've lied to white people. I've lied to black people. I've lied to Asian and Latino people. I've lied to women. I've lied to men. I've lied to the LGBTQ community. Why stop now? Ice Cube's coming, and he's willing to talk to us. I'm going to talk to him. I'm going to steal parts of his plan.
Right.
I'm going to make it sound like he's on the team. Whether he is or not, it doesn't matter. All I got to do is say it. This is what I do. I'm Trump. I'm going to keep trumping.
Right.
He did his thing. So in that way, he was doing the right thing for him.
Right.
I think he's horrible.
Right.
And then Biden also met with Cube.
Right.
Heard him out. Had already formulated a plan that's not altogether different or opposed to what Cube thinks the community deserves. So they didn't really do anything wrong as well. The one thing I will say is that the idea of there only being one president at a time and him being able to sit down and say, look, what we can, I think it could have been articulated better that they can sit down, meet with you, completely hear you out, not just validate your ideas, but also commit to incorporating those ideas in some form or fashion into the larger plan. But they can't do it right now. And they didn't communicate that effectively.
I don't think so. And I agree with that, but I also want to add in that, but I don't have to, because I have a plan in which I did sit down with people who are also experts in at least in my opinion, right? Implementing the contract with Black America, as excellent as it is, and components of it, is not the end all be all of progress for Black Americans in the United States. You know what I'm saying? Like, I get where people are going with this. You have a contract from a prominent, and another thing to clarify really quickly, because I've heard this quite a bit. Why would they sit down with a rapper? Okay, stop right there, please. Stop. First of all, Ice Cube at this point, you need to just define as much more than just a rapper. Trek Life is just a rapper. You know what I'm saying? My accomplishments within rap are my most notable accomplishments in most people's view of me outside of like my job and my family. Ice Cube is a business owner. Ice Cube is a part founder of an actual sports league. Ice Cube is a prominent businessman in general. He is also a rapper. He is also an actor. He is also an entertainment company owner. And before you say all those things are entertainment and it's not a big deal and da-da-da, listen, a lot of lobbyists, which Ice Cube is not a lobbyist yet, but a lot of lobbyists are literally oil tycoons. And a lot of oil tycoons simply just found oil in their backyard. Do not tell me who should or should not qualify to speak to the government, okay? Because
that's nonsense.
It's not that big of a deal, okay? And plus, Ice Cube's not just a rapper, so let's stop there, okay? Now that we've done all that, you and I talked on the phone about this, and we stated that the CWBA was the best of all three. If you read all three plans, which we'll post on Rap Sucks Radio, I posted on my personal Facebook page, but I don't want y'all to go there, so we'll post it on Rap Sucks Radio. The CWBA was the most comprehensive, at least. Now, the Trump plan, and this is not because I'm an anti-Trump, it just was a lot of promises. There was no meat in it. You know what I'm saying? No meat whatsoever. Right. And at the very least, Biden's plan included legislation. It included acts and bills that were already in place and being pushed and fought for. Just, at least there was meat there. Right? Mm-hmm. One could argue that a good combination of all three would be the best. I would argue that implementing some of the CWBA into the Biden plan or vice versa, the Lift Every Voice plan would probably be the best thing. However, it needs to be clearly stated that this is not just about implementing the CWBA. And that's what this seems to be. You know what I'm saying? Listen, if they would just implement my plan, we'd be all good. Wait a minute. Hold on. Other people have spoken about this too, though, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not dissing Cube here. I'm just saying, like, if it's me and I'm in that situation, I do have to recognize that I am not the only black person in America and the only black person that cares for the well-being of black people. And Cube has stated as much in certain instances, but it always comes back to the contract with Black America and implementing points of it, which is what people do. So I'm not dissing him for that. But what I am saying is it's still not the end all be all. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be done in order for this to be a progressive agenda. It can be discussed, but if after the discussion, the Lift Every Voice plan or for the Republicans, the Platinum plan standalone seems perfectly fine to them, then so be it. We as the black community can turn around and disagree, but that's where it kind of ends. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I'll take what you said about, people's opinion of Cube just being an entertainer or whatever they say. That it's not unlike the shut up and dribble argument, right?
Right.
I will take it a step further, almost back full circle in that Ice Cube's vote is worth the same. And I know there are caveats to that. Worth the same as any other person's vote in America, right?
Sure.
What I would say is that each and every one of you and us should be doing just as much as Cube is in the pursuit of those ideals that you find important in your life. Now, everyone's priorities are going to be different. Mm-hmm. Cube chose his. He made them very clear. We should all be doing that. Right. And we don't. So to fault him for doing that is by itself really goofy.
It's very goofy. It's very goofy.
Yeah, the issue that I see with him is the other side of the coin. He and it's not a bad thing. He is somebody, because of his track record, because of the career that he's created, who has a voice that is more widely heard than most of us. So for him to not take that into account and think very, very carefully and critically about how his words, each of his words, impact the situation with, more concrete weight than any of ours, most of ours, right?
Right.
Sure. Even most of politicians out there, and Trump knows that, right? Biden knows that.
Yeah,
we all know that, right?
Well, Trump's a former entertainer. He knows the value of the entertainer's voice. Yeah,
exactly. And the comparison that I was thinking of is that, because we have little kids, right? So the Little Red Riding Hood story, right? Little Red Riding Hood is going she's skipping through the forest to go feed her sick grandma, right? Mm-hmm. So she is going to do something beautiful for somebody who she loves unconditionally.
Correct.
And it's all good, right?
Mm-hmm.
But instead of being able to do that, the wolf has already eaten her grandma and then goes to eat her. and the wolf completely tricks everybody.
Right. Right.
So don't be a little Red Riding Hood, dude. Your intentions are absolutely pure. We may not all agree with everything in the plan, but I don't think anyone can argue that the intentions were not pure. But if you get eaten by the wolf in the process, nobody's getting fed.
Nobody gets fed. That's true. That is very true.
So yeah.
I wanted to note that Biden's plan incorporated elements of the National Urban League's, it's called the Main Street Marshall Plan. That's per Mark Morial, the president and CEO of the National Urban League. So again, it's not as though Biden's plan was drawn up blindly. I don't know who was involved in Trump's plan. I looked to see, but I did note very, very early on that Katrina Pierson is a black woman. She's a half white, half black woman. So I don't want to, again, on this show, I find it's very important for me to never tear down. I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's Candace Owens. I'm not going to tear down anybody for anybody's entertainment. You know what I'm saying? That's not what I'm here for. We're, a show that's, half entertainment and half information. And in this case, just dropping that information in there, it's not as though this plan was created without discussing it with black figures. Now, you can dislike or disagree with the NAACP or the National Urban League. You can disagree with them. But nonetheless, these are black folks that were involved, your people that were involved in the discussion and creation of the Lift Every Voice plan, right? How much Katrina Pierson or any other black person was involved in the Platinum Plan, I don't know. But Katrina Pierson is sitting over there, and Katrina Pierson is black, and Candace Owens is black, and, Herman Cain, rest in peace, black. So there are also black folks that are discussing this on the Republican side, I'd imagine. I don't like the name of the Platinum Plan, but that's neither here nor there. It's a credit card upgrade. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not sure how it'll work, but again, I still thought I was kind of with you on that, Kev. With the exception of the legislation that's built into the Lift Every Voice plan, I do think the Contract with Black America states bestly what Black America needs. So this is mostly where I'm at with it. Like that's mostly where I'm at with it. I think the filth and the nonsense of people pushing their own personal narratives, the alleged free thinkers and above thinkers that needed to come out and say something anti against black, any black person that had a disagreement with Cube, the people who felt like Cube was in the absolute wrong and he shouldn't do anything and rappers need to be quiet. Just knock it off. All of you guys sound goofy as hell right now. You know what I'm saying? The reality is he had the influence to do something and he did do something. And he stated as much on, what's the guy's name? Ron...
Oh, Roland Martin.
Roland Martin.
Yeah, that's what I was going to jump to.
Yeah. He stated as much on Roland Martin's show. We can get into that. He stated, a lot of people tell entertainers to do something, and then when an entertainer does something, then we yell at them like, don't do that. You know what I'm saying? It's like, look, he said himself, a lot of us entertainers, we can take our money and go home and be good. So he's well aware that he doesn't really have to do anything. How that sits with you, I don't know. But how that sits with me is that's not just rich entertainers. That's a lot of Americans. A lot of Americans, man, you play with your vote because you're not in dire need. You don't believe it affects you. So you mess around. You're on the internet just clowning around with it. You know what I'm saying? Whereas other people see the dire need of the necessity in voting or in voicing their opinion on things. I think a lot of you are playing. So that's why you get what you play for.
And this is the thing. Like I said, we say everyone has an opinion. Usually that's that's a little bit of shade, right?
Sure.
But everyone has a right to an opinion.
Absolutely.
Period. Including Cube.
Yes.
And like I said, I truly believe his intentions were come from a very clear place in his mind, but also pure in intent. The other problem that I think people had, which is completely fair, is that the timing was really weird.
Right.
At best.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right before the election. But he's been working on this for a while. And the thing that's weird is that a lot of the stuff in the Platinum Plan, it's like, well, you're promising all this over the next 4 years. What have you, the first question should be, what have you done over the past 4 years? And let's get that on the table as what is our starting point. And unfortunately, I don't think there's a lot to put on the table in that conversation.
There's not. And
right?
Unless you're one of these Trump has done more for the black community than any other president in the history of... No.
And I've heard that. I've seen that. I haven't heard that a lot of people. I've definitely heard people say it on TV. I've seen people write that on social media. It's 100% of the time been a white person, usually a white man.
Yep.
Without any backup across the board, right? So the one thing that I think is the exception to that is the First Step Act, which was, he gets to take credit for the things he did, but that was something, just like many other successes that he claims in his record, was part of something that has been in motion and in progress for a long time. If you get it done, you get to take credit, period. But what I was going to say about Cube is that, like say Cube has a good arm, right? Mm-hmm. And they send him out to the mound for the ceremonial first pitch, right? Mm-hmm. And he just throws a dart over home plate, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone's going to be like, oh my God, did you see that? Throwing up the W's, all that. But that's a far cry from them then letting him pitch the first inning. And if they do that, he's going to get criticized. And he's going to have, if he buys the team and he decides, not only am I going to throw out the first pitch, but I'm going to start.
Right.
And if he does that, then guess what? You get criticized for it, and you have to be able to deal with that.
Correct.
But more importantly, you shouldn't do it because you shouldn't be doing that.
Right.
So, or you got to really practice, and you got to know that this is what you're up against. You're not up against a catcher and no batter, no one in the stand. It's like, no, dude, you're going to have someone that's going to drill that ball right back into your eye socket.
Yep.
So get ready, and that's the piece again, the preparation and the thinking through of the strategy around how to put this plan forward. Was maybe a bit lacking to say the least. And the thing about it that's also disappointing is the guy clearly knows how to create a great product and a great message and communicate it and market it. So then it becomes even more sort of at least confusing, if not disappointing.
Well, the thing is, and this is where motive comes into conversation, right? Information is key. Incomplete information is controversial. Complete information leaves no questions. What Cube has been doing on the back end of that tweet has been providing complete information. Actually, the front end of that tweet and the back end. My sister-in-law sent me a video that he did on, I think it came out October 11th. He, posted a video on Twitter. A lot of people were upset by that video, but he didn't say anything in that video. He didn't say anything one way or the other. I didn't see any problem with it. I actually agreed with most of it. The only thing I didn't agree with, and this is his personal thing, is, look, it's like your analogy is perfect. I don't need to re-explain it. But listen, talking about how mad your critics are, they ain't gonna make them less critical. So you're gonna have to learn to live with it, bro. That's how this works. You know what I'm saying? If people listen to this show, I'm not finna. You're not gonna. Here's what you'll never catch from me. You'll never catch the people are mad at me, but I'm not gonna say that. Like, if I'm true to what I'm doing, that's it. I don't need to discuss my haters. I don't know or whatever. I don't even believe in the idea of haters. Just like I don't believe in the idea of cancel culture, but we don't have enough show for that. You know what I'm saying? The thing that's notable here is that when you tweet something, it's generally going to be incomplete. That's how it works, right? It's going to be incomplete. Mm-hmm. I thought his tweet, reading it again just to be sound and be on point, I thought his tweet was actually pretty informational when it all comes down to it. I thought he said, facts. I put out, well, I'm saying I thought he said, this is his tweet, in quotes. Facts. I put out the CWBA. Both parties contacted me. Dems said we'll address the CWA after the election. Trump's campaign, he said campaign. You guys printed administration. You guys discussed the word administration, but Ice Cube himself said campaign. In this brief tweet, Trump campaign made some adjustments to their plan after talking to us about the CWBA. He also included the word us. So you know that there are other people involved in this. Actually, the writer, I really should have put that in the notes, he's available. Like you know who he is. So again, that's still incomplete information, but it's much more complete than what people are arguing and discussing. So it makes the whole conversation a little muddy, which goes back to why we're discussing the timing of this. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
That's really the issue here. It's what was tweeted or stated was incomplete information. We all know what happens. Ice Cube's put out records for years. He knows marketing enough to know what happens when you put out something that's mildly complete. This is what we do as rappers and artists when we put records out. We tease things. You know what I'm saying? You cast a little shadow over, in an image over Ice Cube standing under a police helicopter, and you put Predator at the bottom. And it's like, oh, it's a new record coming out. What's on that record? Dang. We know how to use incomplete information to sell things, But in politics, it doesn't work like that. Incomplete information is not a sell. It's a danger, in my opinion. So that's where people are, especially with the timing of this. There's a lot to unpack, but there's also a lot to dodge and bob and weave through. And the bobbing and weaving of it is just because people don't read or don't care to find out the whole story. So you need an antagonist and a protagonist, and you can't recognize or won't recognize. Sorry, Kev, this is my last point. You won't recognize that there does not always need to be an antagonist or a protagonist. There can just be the information, and you deal with it,
right?
And that's the end of it. So, yeah.
And that should be the first step. Should we go through really quickly at least a few of the finer points?
Sure.
From these plans.
Sure.
So let's start with the CWBA, which stands for Contract with Black America,
yes.
In case we didn't say it already. And we talked off air, but Trek, you posted a link to a sort of a one-page, which I assume is a summary. I believe there is a much longer document that's presumably much more in-depth. But like I said, based on this one-page summary, there are some very key specifics that at least articulate what the plan is in a way that makes sense. So maybe that's a good place for everybody to start if they haven't already read it. But let me just run through the problem that I had with in reading this was trying to reconcile these words with the idea that at least a few of these things, particularly, were going to be adopted in light of things that have actually been said or that have been done or that have happened over the past 4 years. So I'll go through just really quickly and just touch on a few of them. One of the key things, obviously, is reparations, which is, I think, maybe the first item on Cube's list here. And it does not acknowledge, it doesn't have to acknowledge this, but it does not acknowledge H.R. 40, which is in committee, I believe. So House Resolution 40, Sheila Jackson Lee introduced it, and I don't know what the specific terms that it's calling for. I believe that H.R. 40 is a commission to study reparations.
Sure. California is looking to implement it.
Yeah, it sounds just as kind of, half-assed to me as it probably does to everybody else, especially those who are really riding with Cube. Especially, I'm sure it sounds like BS to him.
Yeah.
That said, on that, Trump said, I think it's a very unusual thing of the possibility of reparations. You have a lot of, again quoting him, it's been a very interesting debate. I don't see it happening. No. Okay. That doesn't sound very promising. Mitch McConnell, who is the guy who, by all accounts, if it does get through the House, is going to be the one not having it do anything in the Senate, says, I don't think reparations for something that happened 150 years ago, for whom none of us currently living are responsible, is a good idea. That's your senator from Kentucky. he went on, we've tried to deal with our original sin of slavery by fighting a civil war, by passing landmark civil rights legislation. We elected an African-American president. Period. End of discussion. I added the period, end of discussion. But that's what he had to say about the idea of studying the positive effects of reparations for an atrocity that this country committed.
Correct.
Not long ago.
No.
So
this was during his presidency. So
right, and that's what folks who are actually in elected office right now are up against. It doesn't, again, make anything that Cube is asking for invalid, unrealistic, or something that we should not all fight for. But that's the framing. That's how you should be looking at this, right? So that's reparations. Mm-hmm. Affirmative action, completely 100%, needs, I think, constant tweaking and adjustment. Along with that, because that was particularly in regard to secondary education, higher education, and the ability for African-American kids to be able to have a path to higher education that's more equitable. He also separated out history education. I don't know exactly what he called it, but the idea of making the history of African Americans in this country and before the country was founded a fundamental part of all education from elementary up, right? And for those textbooks, more importantly, or just as importantly, to be written by Black authors.
Correct.
It makes complete sense to me.
Sure.
Right? Mm-hmm. We only have to look back a couple months, not even a couple months.
It's like looking at it like
to hear what Trump has said about the 1619 project, right?
Correct.
The New York Times project, which we talked about a couple weeks ago, and in addition to what I had already said, all I knew about specifically, or how my intro to it was the podcast, but it was this more dense issue of the New York Times that also was a multimedia, poems, essays, photographs, and this more in-depth history of slavery from the point at which the first African prisoner was brought to the shores of the United States.
Right.
And while some of the assertions in that project have been disputed, you can look into that on your own.
Sure. I can actually help you out. The idea that the Revolutionary War was based on slavery is their really main sticking point, which is nonsense. Go ahead, continue.
Yeah, right. So, the idea is that as of late, because this is not that old, the 1619 project, was that this was going to be a basis for finally a bit more holistic history taught to kids.
Right.
And guess what? History's not always fun, but it's not okay to say that Martin Luther, that Rosa Parks didn't sit in the back of the bus and Martin Luther King gave a speech and yay, everything's cool. That's not okay. That's not enough.
It doesn't answer the questions. Exactly.
That's not enough. So the idea that would be the basis, again, finally, we have a core basis for what can be a more equitable study of history from kindergarten up in some kind of way that makes sense. That somehow has turned controversial. Mike Pompeo of this administration, he called it a dark vision of America's birth. You know what? It's too bad.
It's the facts.
It's the vision. It's what it is, right? Mm-hmm. Then Trump saw that he might be able to make a meal out of it. He said, the left has warped, distorted, and defiled the American story with deceptions, falsehoods, and lies. There's no better example than the New York Times totally discredited, not true, 1619 project. He said, it rewrites American history to teach our children that we were founded on the principle of oppression, not freedom. Nothing could be further from the truth.
Can I jump? He's right.
Yes.
He's absolutely right. He's right.
Is he?
No, he is. If you are white, he's absolutely right. Right. This was founded on the foundation of freedom and justice for all. If you are black, no, it's not. this story represents the here. I have a constant conversation with people who like to duck and dodge about when we should start discussing these things, right? Usually, because people are so turned off and know so little about slavery, I actually tell them, listen, let's ignore slavery. Chill out, folks. Don't jump. I'm not ignoring slavery personally. I'm saying in conversations. I just don't get at me. All right? Don't at me about that. Let's start at the point where slavery was emancipated, and you could have at that point made every Black American citizen a citizen with full and equal rights to everyone else, right? But instead, it took years upon years upon years for the same right, to the point where we are still battling to this day because of loopholes, of redlining, of underlying laws that have been written into listen, Joe Biden's in the building. The crime bill, the war on drugs. These things have all been detrimental to Black America throughout. This is since emancipation. So you don't even really have to add in slavery if you don't want. If you don't want to talk about slavery, fine, Mitch. Let's not talk about slavery. Let's if it makes you more comfortable, Mitch, let's leave slavery out of this. In a conference, a one-on-one conversation. Go ahead and start from the Emancipation Proclamation. Start from its ratification, 1863. Start from the ratification of it, right?
They don't want that.
They don't want to do that.
They don't want none of it.
Nobody wants to have a conversation about the documented near 3,000 people. They stopped counting in 1950. The documented near 3,000. Now, mind you, they did not count Black Wall Street, and these were only reported or found, deeply found records. 2,700 Black people killed by the Klan by 1950. Near 3,000, right? Nobody wants to discuss that they were citizens. Those were citizens. You know what I'm saying? These weren't runaway slave property. This isn't even property in a sense, right? These were actual citizens like yourself. So when you discuss these things about the Klan and you see hangings in your history book, and those hangings are in 1920 and 1940, fam, those are your neighbors that were being hung, not arbitrary slaves. Neighbors, American citizens. So when we're having these conversations, Kev, about educating the American people, educate them on that. You looking at your people, you're looking at your own American citizens dying. Some were soldiers who fought in world wars, Kev.
Yeah.
Why is that so difficult to understand? Why is that so difficult to comprehend? Q's plan mentions that.
And that's the analysis that I think, everyone should do when they get over being upset at Q for the 24 to 36 hours you want to be upset at him, or anybody else in this equation that you want to be upset at, is start looking at what everybody involved has done or not done, or said or not said, just over the past couple of years,
right. Right.
Again, what McConnell said was maybe the most, because we know that the president, I don't even think he wrote this because it makes way too much sense word to word. But McConnell said, we've tried to deal with our original sin of slavery by fighting a civil war, by passing landmark civil rights legislation, and by electing an African-American president. That's not enough.
It's not
even
enough.
A starting point.
And how do you...
And if you want to...
How are you?
Yeah, and he also says that this is something that happened 150 years ago. Well, this is my opinion, but if the strategy is to keep pushing people further and further away from, keep using ignorance as a block to push people further and further away from an accurate understanding and recollection of their history, if you can do that long enough, you can effectively disconnect them from their history so they do not hold you responsible for the things that your ancestors did, just like you hold us responsible for the things our ancestors did. Or you hold us responsible for things that people who look like us, who have nothing to do with us, did, 6 months ago. So and it makes it easy. This is the same Mitch McConnell who said that if we let them vote, we're going to lose.
Right.
If we make it too easy for them to vote, we're going to lose.
Correct.
And I know that a lot of people who, are down with us are here in California. We have it way better than a lot of other places in the country as far as just making it very easy for us to vote. One, it's not freezing when we go to vote. Two, we have multiple polling places in most of the areas around this state. But there are plenty of places where it is not easy, especially right now. And they don't want you to vote.
Right.
They're not saying they're going to vote for the other party. They're saying, we know that most people don't want us doing the same stuff we've been doing. So
and as
we need to really, you really got to think about that and think about, do you want to be in bed? Is that just as good a partner as anybody else?
And here,
I'm not saying Biden necessarily, but to me, it's not.
It's not. And here's the thing I want to also note, because you mentioned stopping you from voting. As that's becoming more and more difficult, now the idea is to tell you how bad the Democrats have been for you, which is arguable, I'm sure. But listen, going through the rest of this list here, no. I'm sorry, but no. I understand the arguments. I understand my people's arguments. I understand that it's a very important thing right now to point out the flaws of Democrats. And I am right there with you, right? I will say this on this show, and I've said this to people personally. You can at me about this. The black vote has been a charity vote for years, because almost every president that's been in there, pretty much every president, has done something detrimental to black America. So when a black person votes, they're voting for you. They're voting on your behalf, on everyone else's behalf, because black folks take an L with every damn vote. And that L is not always very specific to the president even wanting to give you an L. That's not always specific to the legislator, to the mayor, to whomever is voted for wanting to give you an L, right? Sometimes the idea of giving you freedom, in a sense, freedom to accomplish, or whatever it might be, whether it's through affirmative action, whether it's through education, what have you, is blocked and fought so much that by the time any legislation passes, it's detrimental to you anyway. So at this point, what Q was talking about is accurate. But Kev, I want to, you wrote this down. I want to make sure we go through these things before we jump out of here.
Okay.
You mentioned, not you mentioned, in here, it's mentioned black representation.
Yep.
Right. Like stated, look at the picture of the current administration. How many black folks you see?
Yeah.
Right.
Don't adjust your white balance. Your white balance is working just fine.
It's working just fine. Right. Reform gerrymandering in polling places. Sure. Get rid of the electoral college, and in doing so, make great strides towards reducing the incentive fueling voter suppression. So Kev, this is quoted from Kev. For my money, it all goes together. If greater voter turnout reduces your chances of success, it's your fault, not the voters' fault, period, point blank, right? Juneteenth was mentioned. Trump has been touting that he made Juneteenth important. That should tell you enough. Yeah,
and Q wants to make it a national holiday along with pretty much everybody else.
Come on.
I think just about everybody else is like, yeah, let's do it.
Why not? Let's do it. We should, right? Healthcare, of course, Biden's plan, it is worth noting that in the Biden plan, actually, it starts with health. It starts with the overwhelming numbers of black people that are suffering from COVID. So it starts with health. So these are the things that were noted. These are the things that were discussed. These are the things that we should be looking at and reading. I will, in my part of this, my whole monologue or whatever, there are going to inevitably be questions about why just black America, right? I know that question has come up in people's homes. I know that it's not all the way comfortable, especially in our scene, Kev, of music or whatever. It's not comfortable for people to state that question out in the open, but I am going to deal with a direct answer for anyone who says, why are we focusing on just black America? One, because normally we don't. Normally we do not. That was Cube's biggest issue, and most people's biggest issue with both plans. Both plans included a lot of the word minority or people of color, and that is an issue. in a sense, right? But not an issue because people of color don't deserve rights too. But that's my point here.
And I mean, Cube is an African American man.
He's African.
He's a black man putting together a contract with Black America.
Correct.
A plan for Black America. If you want to be mad at that, okay, but what do you want him to do?
And since
he hasn't gotten that, so you know, so.
But look, Kev, this is my point though. Since a lot of the underlying legislation, so the inability to purchase homes for people of color prior, with the Federal Housing Authority jumping in and making it difficult for these things were targeting Black Americans initially, right? And ended up spreading to any other person of color, right? Fixing your issues with Black America is the largest step in fixing your issues with minority and people of color America. That's why.
That's what I told you. I said, hey, you get that cooking, and the rest of us will ride that wave right along with you.
Yeah.
It's not gonna stop if we can get the movement going.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and I said we're going to go through all the points. We haven't really touched on anything. At the end of the day, you should healthcare is a big deal to me because of what we are going through right now. Okay. Mm-hmm. And one thing that I wanted to do in preparation for this was go back and look at just a few of the things that Trump promised that he was going to do within the first 100 days. He's done a few of them. He hasn't done nearly all of them, right? He's just done a few of them. But the main thing for the purpose of this conversation is he said he was going to repeal and replace Obamacare within the first 100 days. He has done neither, right? He failed at repealing it and has yet to come up with a plan to replace it. Ice Cube will probably come up with a plan to replace Obamacare, a written plan, before Trump will.
Right.
Okay. So go back and look at some of that as well. So you can, again, put in context the record of the guy who's been president for the last 4 years, alongside a guy who's been in government for the last 47 years, alongside a list of demands from Ice Cube.
Sure.
Okay. Go back and read the Black Panther 10-point program and the principles in that, and think about how that applies to things that have been done for any community, let alone the Black community, over the past 40 years. And try and think critically about how we react to these things, and then put your own plan together.
Right.
And until you do that, maybe ease off on the crazy stuff, especially if you're not going to be voting.
Right. Because
then you really don't have a leg to stand on.
Sure. I agree with that. I'm not an advocate for, but I'm not going to sit here and deal with people who don't want to vote. But you're absolutely right in this case. You're absolutely right in this point, especially those that are strongly critical, but then are refusing to vote. Like, all right, that's on you. Kev, I think we should end with a point from the Roland Martin interview. A lot of people were upset with Roland Martin. I just thought he asked direct questions. If you didn't like the questions, I don't know, man. People are in such a weird emotional state. Quote from Roland Martin: "Do you believe the Trump campaign greatly overstated your involvement for the purpose of them being able to say, we have attached ourselves to Ice Cube? Do you believe that you were used politically for their purposes?" Cube's response: "Look, I knew that whoever I engaged with would use that politically. I don't care about that part. The part I care about is getting something done." Okay.
Yep. That was my key takeaway from that whole thing.
Sure.
The headline, at least in that, because I think it was in Mediaite or something, and the headline was that Roland Martin stumps Ice Cube, which was inaccurate as far as I can tell. I mean, there were some questions that Roland Martin asked, and then Cube kind of sat there for a little while thinking about the answer. I don't know that he was as on point as maybe he wanted to be, but he didn't get stumped. He answered the questions, and he answered them to the, he told him the way he felt.
Sure.
Again, the timing, not great. No question. The timing is not great. The look is it's a bad look. Considering everything that, and the reason why I say that is because of everything that I just went over and reviewed in terms of the record, the recent record of this president. But at the end of the day, I hope Cube keeps his foot on the gas. I hope he encourages other people who are not rappers or basketball players or celebrities to put their foot on the gas. Again, put your plan together. Figure out what you want to do, and try your best to get it done. And don't stop until you get it, because then maybe we'll listen to people who say, why is he saying all this about politics? Why didn't he just keep rapping? It's like, well, that's why.
And he was,
because now you can actually vote without walking, 3 miles in the snow. You know?
Yeah. Do you even Ice Cube, bro? Ice Cube been political. God.
Right.
I mean, where have you been? Where exactly have you been? You know what I'm saying? I'm for all of it. I'm not for the timing of it. I do use that statement because people have argued with me whether Ice Cube was used or not. He himself said yes. In that statement to me, he said, yeah, I knew people were going to use this. So he accepted the fact that one side or the other was going to use him for some political fodder. I don't think that's wise. If there's anything I'm critical about, I don't think that's wise. I think you when you put out information, you do it the same way you did the contract with Black America. In July, I read that joint. My brother's friends, we had I'm in a text group with my brother and his friends. We all read it. We all talked about it in July. You put out complete information, and complete information was reacted to by Black America. Yo, we rolling with this. What's next? What came out next was what he said. I'm going to send this to both parties. All right, we'll see what happens. And now we know what happened. But when you provided what happened, you did not provide complete information. You know what I'm saying? We went for a headline. And now Q has been on every show, and I'm not against that. I'm not against it. Don't at me. I'm not against it. I'm just saying complete information is always best. That's the way I feel. You know what I'm saying? So,
yep.
I think in a sense he got played a little bit by the Trump administration, and he was able to, because we're all willing to listen to Q more than we're willing to listen to Trump. You know why? Because we know Trump is a damn liar. So we're like, it's possible that he lied about this. So people are backtracking through the story, combing through the facts,
right?
Which is something you should do no matter who the president is, but especially with this damn fool. So anyhow,
there's one definitive statement I'll make though.
Sure.
If this whole situation makes you throw your vote your vote to Kanye West, you are really goofy. Super goofy.
Oh my God. All right. Oh, man, I have so much more to say, but the show is getting long.
Yeah.
Yo, thank y'all for tuning in. You know what I'm saying? I really appreciate y'all. We try to discuss these topics. I don't want to say delicately, because I don't know, man. People are going to feel how they feel about it. And like I said, I'm not going to do the whole everybody's mad at me, but blah, blah, blah. That's corny to me. So what I hope you do at the end of the day is read all three plans. What I hope you do if you're voting in California is you read at least base information on all the propositions. Just so you know,
right.
Just so you're informed. I'll put up a link on Rap Sucks Radio that'll direct you to a PDF that just has flat out base information about the propositions. All I'm asking is that you read. Or you review, or you at least get a base understanding of what you're discussing, and not discuss it from your narrative. You know what your narrative is. I know what your narrative is. I know it because you only show up when it's time for your narrative. You know what I'm saying? You pull your pom-poms out when your narrative shows up. You know? I'm tired of people with their narratives. So that's it. Man, thank y'all for listening to Rap Sucks Radio. I am your homeboy Trek Life. I always get this one backwards. I have to think about it. I am your homeboy Trek Life, and that's your fam, Kev Sakota.
It's because we're one and the same.
We are. We're your fam and your homeboy. Yo, You can catch past episodes of Rap Sucks Radio on rapsucksradio.com or any of your favorite podcasting platforms. If we're not on that platform, then you let them know. Don't let us know because we can't do nothing about it. But they can.
Go tell Cube.
Yeah, right. You also can catch us on TV, BTSN, Behind the Scenes Network. What you do is you download the app or channel on your Roku, your Fire Stick, or your Fire TV. You click on that app, and we are right there. As I do every week, I'm going to get on this TV, mama.
Nope. Nope.
I live for the look on your face when that happens. Thank y'all for tuning in, man. On the count of three, we say peace. 1, 2, 3. Peace.
Peace.
We out, y'all.